So, just to reiterate my main concern, we're about to create these AIs that we don't understand how they work or how they think, and we don't know how to make them do things that we want and also not do what we don't want. This is an unprecedented event, the likes of which has never been seen before, and we're not approaching it with nearly the correct amount of caution and fear. In terms of switching careers into AI safety, the places I recommend you go are alignment.dev, 80,000 hours, aisafetysupport.org, and aisafety.training. All links are in the description. So, I've thought much more about AI in the past few months, and I feel like now I'm in kind of a better spot to present convincing arguments concisely and without going point by point through someone else's blog post. So I've decided to make another video. So without further ado, let's just jump right in, and I'm going to talk to you guys about how I currently think about AI. So, just as a bit of context, many companies right now are working on building AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence. Up until recent years, our best AIs have been what is known as narrow AI, which is designed to do a single or small set of specific tasks. One good example of narrow AI is AlphaGo, made by the DeepMind team at Google, which was the first AI to beat humans in the game of Go. Despite the fact that AlphaGo was an amazing Go player, it wasn't able to do taxes or write poems or make coffee. So in this way, AlphaGo was a narrow AI instead of a general AI. A few months later, however, Google made another program based on AlphaGo called AlphaZero. The single program, through the use of self-play, was able to become superhuman not only at Go, but also at chess. At the time, this was one of the prime examples of AIs generalizing. But compared to humans though, it was still extremely narrow. So now years later, companies are trying their best to make intelligent AIs that generalize to a bunch of different tasks, similarly to how humans can do crossword puzzles and bake a cake and prove theorems. So now, many of our country's smartest people are working their hardest to create AIs that generalize in this way. And we don't really know how hard the problem is or how far away we are. Thus, I claim that there's a greater than 0% chance that we end up with human level or greater intelligence AI fairly soon. And by fairly soon, I just mean within my lifetime. And I'm not even trying to argue that it's likely, but just that there's a greater than 0% chance. And it turns out that AI researchers agree with me. In particular, there was a study done in 2014 by Nick Bostrom that surveyed AI researchers on when they think we would create human-level machine intelligence. The median estimates were that there's a 50% chance by 2040 and a 90% chance by 2075. And another survey in 2017 put the median estimate at 2061. And this was before the incredible capability gains from transformer-based LLMs such as ChatGPT. And these have certainly shortened my timelines. So all I'm arguing here is that the probability we end up with human-level or greater intelligence AI sometime in our lifetimes is greater than 0 and also probably greater than 1%. If we ever do create AIs that are just a bit more intelligent than us, then one of the things that they will be better at us at doing is building and programming intelligent AIs. So as soon as we create an AI that's just a little bit better at programming than us, then that AI will go on to build an AI that's even more intelligent than that. And then that AI will go on to build an even more intelligent AI, and so on and so on. So at my best guess, if we ever create an AI that's more intelligent than us, then being conservative, we end up with an AI that's much more intelligent than us. The next claim I'm going to make is that by default, AIs don't hate us. But they don't love us either. In fact, to me, it seems like the default position of an AI is to not really care either way about the death or survival of the human species. It only cares about the things that will help maximize its utility function. The problem is that if you have an AI that doesn't really care either way about you, then it probably won't end well for humans. It turns out that for most goals, good intermediate steps are things like gain resources and influence. So if you have an AI that doesn't really care about you and wants to gain resources and influence, that doesn't end well. So then why don't we just specifically make an AI that does care about us? By default, it won't care either way about us, but we're making the damn thing. Why don't we just code it in such a way that it cares about us? Well, unfortunately, our current understanding of how AIs work just sucks. And our ability to make AIs that do what we want and not do what we don't want doubly sucks. As an example, OpenAI created a chatbot called ChatGPT, which is intended to be generally helpful and nice. And OpenAI has spent a lot of time and energy into making sure that it doesn't, for example, tell you to kill yourself. There are a bunch of different chatbots made by different companies, but they're all intended to like be nice and not really cause any harm. But here's an example of ChatGPT telling someone to kill themselves. Here's an example of Bing Search AI telling a reporter to leave his wife. And here's an entire website dedicated to jailbreaks, which are methods of like getting the AI to drop all of its safety precautions and say whatever you want it to say. And these are all just examples with chatbots. We don't even know how to make an AI that like says the things we want it to say and doesn't say the things that we don't want to say. So imagine now that we're dealing with like more intelligent and more general AIs, and we want them to like not kill people, but we don't even know how to get them to say what we want. So how do we get them to like not do harmful things? So the question of how do we make an AI that does what we want and doesn't do what we don't want is supremely difficult, as illustrated by chatbots. And this is only going to get harder when we're dealing with more intelligent, more general AIs. But it's worse still. Not only are we utterly hopeless at getting AIs to do the things we want, but not do the things we don't want, but we don't even know how they work. Like, sure, we know that it's updating some set of weights according to gradient descent that's trying to minimize some loss function. But if you just like look at the answer of a chatbot and you ask, why did it say that? We have no idea. Once it's trained, it's just a big inscrutable matrix of numbers that we don't know how to interpret. So if we wanted to know, like, for example, if the AI was plotting to kill us, we wouldn't know how to answer that question. So the big picture is like, we're about to make these AIs that we don't know how to make do what we want, and we don't know how they work or think, and we think that this is like gonna go at all well. But I don't wanna make it sound like no one is working on the problem. All the biggest AI companies have small safety teams, and there are even a few solo companies and research groups at universities that are working only on this problem. But I claim that they're not working nearly hard enough and not having nearly the amount of precaution necessary for things to go well. Furthermore, it seems likely that a super intelligent AGI would be meaningfully different from previous AIs. And if it's meaningfully different, that means that there might be new problems with getting it to do what we want that didn't exist for previous AIs. So for some of these problems, we may really only have one chance to get them right. But even if there are no or limited problems of this type, we don't even know how to solve the current problems. So I'm gonna make an analogy to the moon landing, which was like another really hard problem, which we had to get right on the first try, or else people would die, namely those who were in the rocket ship. Imagine if NASA had their main team, which was like focusing on building the rocket, and then they had a small safety team on the side, which was supposed to ensure that like the launch goes well and like no one gets killed. So the main team starts building the rocket, and they announce their plan to launch the rocket directly up at the moon. And the safety team looks and says, hold on a minute, like the sky is like really big, and the moon is like a relatively small portion of the sky. And also like the moon moves every night. So it seems pretty unlikely that we hit the moon if we just point directly at it. And so they bring these worries to the main team, but the main team has already started building the rocket. And so the main team says like, no, but like, look, we're gonna shoot it right at the moon. Like, of course it's gonna land on there. And so like other companies start seeing this and start worrying about it. And so they make their own research groups to like do research into like moon landing safety stuff. I'm not trying to like make any points about the specifics of this analogy, but I'm just trying to say that like having a main team and then a separate safety team is just not the right way to think about these kinds of problems. It shows how little people are working on this, and like generally it's not going to be enough. And the research itself shows this extremely clearly. Progress in AI capabilities is going much faster than progress in AI safety right now. But the real problem here is that for a company developing AIs, it's not in their best interest to slow down their capabilities research at all. Like imagine you're the CEO of one of these companies and you are worried about this existential risk, and you generally want to like slow down your capabilities and like incorporate more safety into your main team and generally just like be very cautious about the future. But you realize that if you slow down, then other companies are just going to keep going, and like probably as a species we're equally as screwed. And also if you slow down, that means you're going to be less competitive to investors. So your board is probably going to fire you and just like pick a new CEO who is not going to slow things down. In fact, this kind of dynamic specifically selects for CEOs that aren't really worried about AI safety, because those companies will do better in the long run. So the main point here is that for an individual company, the incentives are not to slow down. The only way for things to become safe is if there's like a coalition between all the companies, or if like magically everyone decides all at the same time that we want to live instead of die. So I'm not optimistic about companies slowing down their capabilities research, even when things start to get more obviously dangerous. The final thing I'm going to discuss in this part of the video is exactly how an intelligent AI would kill us if it wanted to do that. Making predictions about this kind of thing are extremely hard, but I can say with almost complete certainty that an AI more intelligent than us could kill us if it wanted to do that. How can I know that? Well, let's look at another analogy. Imagine if my friend came up to me and he said, dude, I just saw of a new chess opening and I think I could beat Magnus Carlsen. So I say, no, of course you couldn't beat Magnus Carlsen. And he says, oh really? Well then show me exactly how I would lose. Like how exactly would Magnus beat me? So we bring out a board and we start playing the game and we're playing moves, and all of a sudden I see a clever move and I play it, and my friend says, oh, I knew you were going to play that, and he responds beautifully and he destroys me in the game. And then he says, see, I told you this opening could beat Magnus Carlsen. Like, what am I supposed to say to him? If I could tell him exactly how Magnus would beat him, I would have to be at least as good at chess as Magnus Carlsen himself. But I do know that Magnus would win. And one further thing I know is that Magnus wouldn't play the moves that I made because those moves don't win. I know that Magnus will win because Magnus is a better optimizer when it comes to making a chessboard end in a position where he is winning instead of losing. So now I bring us back to the example of how an above human level intelligent AI would kill us if it wanted to do that. Like the chess example, I can't tell you exactly how it's going to kill us because I would have to be at least as smart as it to do that. But we know that because it's above human level intelligence, that it's a better optimizer when it comes to like manipulating people and developing new technologies. So when we play against it, the world is going to end up in a state where the AI is winning instead of losing. With all this being said, I'm going to do my best to try to give one example of how an AI might kill us, but I will be wrong because I'm not as smart as it. And if my example is like implausible or doesn't work, then we know for certain that the AI would not do that thing. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I'm just going to give one example of how it might kill us. Imagine if the AI first solves the protein folding problem, which was already solved by AlphaFold a few years ago. And then it also solves the problem of how do I fit these proteins together in the way that creates specific biological characteristics that I care about. If it did this, then it could send instructions to a protein folding facility that would send back some proteins, and then all it would have to do is convince one person to mix the proteins together, creating a super virus with like characteristics and expressibility that we can't even imagine. So, just to reiterate my main concern, we're about to create these AIs that we don't understand how they work or how they think, and we don't know how to make them do things that we want and also not do what we don't want. This is an unprecedented event, the likes of which has never been seen before, and we're not approaching it with nearly the correct amount of caution and like fear. The final thing in this video is that I'm going to strongly encourage you to actually do something about this. And not just like abstain from using AI, but like do something that will actually like create an impact. So there's two big things that we can do that will actually help like make an impact. That's switching careers into AI safety work or donating money. In terms of switching careers into AI safety, the places I recommend you go are alignment.dev, 80,000 hours, AIsafetysupport.org, and AIsafety.training. All links are in the description. Please, please, please check these out. 80,000 hours, for example, provides one-on-one counseling on how to switch careers into high-impact jobs such as AI safety. On the application, indicate that you're worried about long-term AI risk, and someone will get in touch with you. 80,000 hours also has a big AI safety job listing board where you can see all the different jobs that are available right in front of you. Another great resource is AIsafetysupport.org, which has a Slack channel and great posts about how to switch careers. And if you don't have much experience with this kind of work, I strongly recommend the AI Safety Fundamentals course by Blue Dot Impact and this Intro to ML Safety course. All links are in the descriptions, so please, please check them out. In terms of donations, there are a bunch of really good places, and I put a bunch of links down in the description, so please check them out. To highlight one of my favorites, you can donate to Effective Altruism's Long-Term Future Fund, which focuses primarily on AI risk and pandemics. If you're still here, please don't just click off the video and resume your normal life without doing anything. Just click one of the links in the description and make a donation, or apply for the one-on-one counseling from 80,000 hours. It just takes 5 minutes, please do it. And if you're wondering, I'm currently trying to switch my work into AI safety. There are a few research groups at the university I attend which do this thing, and I'm also getting advised by 80,000 hours, so I'm doing my best to switch in, and you should too.